Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to another Magic Arena video. Today we are going to be testing out a BUG Midrange build that I kind of came up with. We're testing a lot of the new cards from War of the Spark with this one, so I'm really excited about it. A lot of this is focused on hand destruction, so as you can see, we start off with 2 Divest and 2 Duress as turn 1 hand destruction spells, which seems to be really great. 1-for-1ing on the turn 1 is really nice. You can also keep the opponent off of whatever their first play is, which has been really good in my experience. And then turn 2, we also run Thought Erasure, so this is a really good way to peel out any card that you need to, while fixing a little bit on the top of your deck, so making sure that your next draw is actually going to be something useful. Turn 3, we run Davrel, so this is a really new, interesting addition to this deck. It's one that obviously strips cards away from their hand, but also punishes them for not having enough resources. And so this is really a nice card. I actually have really enjoyed playing with this. I built another kind of blue-black hand destruction deck originally, that focused on Davrel as sort of the main win condition. It was sort of an 8-rack style deck, which was actually really fun, but it just didn't function as well, unfortunately. So we kind of tossed that one. But so we've got quite a few hand destruction spells. We also have Search for Azcanta as a way to get through and churn through a lot of the cards in our deck. We are running the full 24 lands, so sometimes we can pitch those to the graveyard for hopefully finding a more useful spell. But as well, we also run Tamiyo, which can pull back all of these cards from our graveyard. This is a really interesting card. I've really enjoyed playing with Tamiyo. Not only does it search the top few cards of your deck and then toss the rest into your graveyard, but it can also then pull cards out from your graveyard, and it's not conditional. It can turn any card from your graveyard back to your hand, which means you can really set up for whatever the opponent might be doing. Vraska's Contempt, Cast Down, Cry of the Carnarium, all pretty standard removal stuff. Cry of the Carnarium is a decent way of dealing with early board threats. I found it to be really perfect in this deck because turn 3 turn 4 is where this deck really starts to gain its momentum. And so being able to sweep the board first and then maybe turn 4 play something like Tamiyo, or even ramp with Growth Spiral, into something like Underrealm Lich, which is an interesting card. I only have a 1 of in this deck, but with all of the draw in this deck and with all of the graveyard interaction, it's nice to not only pitch cards into your graveyard, but also, because you're denying your opponent resources, be able to stick a threat that even if they rip a removal spell off the top of the deck, they can't really do anything about this, because unless it's Vraska's Contempt or some kind of exile, but just paying 4 life means that this cannot be destroyed. It's indestructible. So it makes for a really good threat. It also filters your draws every turn, which is really fantastic. We do also run, for a little bit of card draw as well as removal, a 1 of Vraska. This is obviously from Guilds. It's a little bit of an older card, but it is really fantastic. I've absolutely loved this one. Hydroid Krasis as an auto include. It's just a fantastic value card. You can play this even on turn 4, even turn 3 technically, if you can get a Growth Spiral out early. This is a really good way to just kind of keep drawing through your deck, make sure you've got a threat out there, make sure you can block for days. It's perfect, so absolutely love this card. And then one of the biggest cards that I have found to be really good is Casualties of War. So initially I thought this was just way too expensive to be all that good. It is 6 mana, and it is very stringent on the mana base because it is 2 black and 2 green. We run basically the full gambit of Shocklands in this set, or in this deck, excuse me. But you can obviously play around with that land base as you've got them. But being able to choose 1 or more of these is really good. So it destroys target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, target land, and target planeswalker. So you can actually play any number of these effects for 6 mana. You're always going to be able to blow up a land 9 times out of 10, usually a creature as well. Planeswalkers are much more popular now, so it's actually been really good in that regard. And then even enchantments and artifacts for kind of fringe decks or decks that play maybe like the Wilderness Reclamation style decks, like things like that. Really powerful card. With all of this ability stacked onto 1 card, you're really able in 1 turn to kind of swing the game in your way. I do only run 2 of them just because it is a little expensive, and we're just testing a bunch of this stuff. but it is really, really good. And then the last card here that I wanted to mention is Spark Double. This is a really interesting card. This is one that we're seeing a lot of hit on Arena just because it's so powerful. But for 4 mana, you can copy either a creature or a planeswalker you control. If it's a creature, it comes into play with a +1/+1 counter on it. If it's a planeswalker, it comes in with an additional loyalty counter on it. And if it's a planeswalker, excuse me, it also isn't legendary, so you can double up on planeswalkers. I've been able to double up on Tamiyo quite a number of times, and it's just insane because you're able to pull out. Your graveyard's going to be full, so you're able to pull out literally any answer that you could possibly need, and it's fantastic. So essentially, this is a resource denial deck. Discard in the hand very, very early on. You ramp up a little bit with Growth Spiral, but it's really not focused on the ramp stuff. That's more of just a draw engine as well as getting you up a land or two. And then you just outvalue them. It's very Jund style, but obviously in Bug. So I'm really excited about this. Let's go ahead and jump into game one. All right, here we are for game one, again with this BUG Midrange deck. Hopefully it will prove to be something really, really fun here. I just want to mention, we're just playing casually with this deck. I did play ranked with it, and it was actually doing pretty well, but I just kind of wanted to test this out a little bit. So, opening hand, not great. We don't have any turn one hand destruction. We do have a little bit of removal, so we do have some interaction with the opponent. And then we do have 2 Hydroid Krasis, which are great. They draw you more cards, but this may be wrong, but I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this. I'd rather have a little more interaction and see what we can get. This actually like a lot more, weirdly. So Divest and Duress options, I really, really like. We don't get the option of playing at turn 1 solely because we don't have any shock lands, which kind of sucks. But then we do have Hydroid Krasis long term, so I'm going to keep this. It's not great, but I think it's better than going down a card. And I'm actually going to bottom this. We, generally speaking, will be able to draw plenty of lands, so I'm not super worried about that. And we will see what they've got. So, Hired Poisoner, not super worried about that. I'm going to go ahead and play Woodland Cemetery here. Obviously, it does come into play tapped. Kind of sucks. Not a great turn 1 start here, but if we can get a Divest off or a Duress, depending on what we think their next play might be, we would be really, really well set. If we can get, unfortunately, no. So what I'm going to do is Divest here. They did play a creature already. They've also played Disenchantment, which is pretty big, but I think I'd rather take away a creature right now. So, Demon of Catastrophes, definitely interesting. Torgar, definitely interesting. Doom Dissenter and Reassembling Skeleton, not super worried about these, though they are both turn 2 plays. We can't really take them off of a turn 2 play, though, so I'm not super worried about that. I think the biggest issue is long-term going to be this Torgar. We've got Cast Down to deal with this, so I'm going to go ahead and take that. And then I'm going to play a Breeding Pool tapped. That way, any of these now come into play untapped in the future. So also want to mention really quick, if this does look a little bit choppy, as I mentioned in most of my videos with this, this is on a Mac. This is not on a PC, so I'm running off of a virtual machine, which does kind of unfortunately take some of the power away from the computer here, but it's fine. We'll be fine. So because they didn't have a non-creature spell, I'm not going to Duress and instead going to be a little more mana efficient, play Davril. Most likely they're just going to swing in and kill this next turn, but this is Resource Denial. It's going to take away a card from them. Probably just the Skeleton, if I'm going to be honest. That's probably the best thing that they can just discard. But it's a card down, and so we'll see what can happen. Really don't like this card, Dreadhorde Invasion. Unfortunately, that's just a lot of pressure on us. Excuse me. But next turn, we can theoretically Hydroid Krasis for at least 2, so we can get a 2/2 up there. And yes, so they are just going to go ahead and take this down, which is fine. At the very least, it saved us a little bit of damage and got a card out of their hand. So here, let's see. I think the best option is honestly just a Hydroid Krasis for 2. That at least stops a lot of these little guys from coming in. And ideally draws us into hopefully a card of some kind that's useful. But we will see. So we got another Hydroid Crisis. That's interesting. So next turn, theoretically, we can Hydroid Crisis for 3 if we want. We still only draw 1 card off of that, so I'm not super stoked about it. Unfortunately, not the best draw on our end. I was really hoping for something like Cast Down. Yeah, that's not good. Could have potentially Duress there first, but I don't think it was worth it to. Thought Erasure. Okay, so obviously we're under a lot of pressure. We're going to be taking 4, 5, 6, 7 next turn, which is quite a bit, unfortunately. But I think the best thing we can do here, Thought Erasure, set up our next draw, potentially Duress, definitely Duress as well, depending on what they've got. So they actually don't have anything that I super care about. We can't Duress anything. So I'm going to take this Death Baron. That just, because it pumps up everything that they've got, that just seems like the best option. We definitely do not want Duress. Excuse me. And so, unfortunately, I'm just going to pass here. I don't like doing that, but I'd rather play the Hydroid Crisis for a little bit extra. And I think it will be worth it here. So, unfortunately, it looks like the opponent definitely has the advantage in this one. So we can Overgrown Tomb, but I don't really want to take the life. So, yep, let's do this for 3. Potential that we could have Duress there first, just because we knew it wasn't going to be mana efficient for them. Cry of the Carnarium is good-ish. But unfortunately, we're going to be forced to chump block on the creature token, which really is not great. And yeah, that's going to do it. So unfortunately, game 1, they got it. I'm not going to block here. There's no point. So unfortunately, we lose game 1. Kind of a bad start for us. We just didn't have the great hand that I would have liked, but you do get to see a little bit of that resource denial in action. And honestly, given another turn, we would have had at least a better shot. Probably still not great, but we would have had at least something. So let's go ahead and jump into game 2. Hopefully we have a little bit of a better game, and we'll see how this deck does. All right, here we are for game 2 with this BUG Midrange deck. Unfortunately, game 1, not the best, but hopefully we get a little bit of a better start this time. This I actually like quite a bit. So we have turn 1 Duress into turn 2 either Cast Down or Search, depending on what they do. And we do have our 3rd land here, so I'm definitely going to be keeping this. Spark Double, obviously not good until we have a little bit more on the field, but that's okay. And we do draw Cry of the Carnarium, which I believe is a very good card in a lot of matchups here. So we'll Duress, see what they've got in their hands. Whew, lots of stuff. Lots and lots of stuff. So they do have... Narset is a pretty big draw for us. We don't really want them to have that. We really don't want them to have any of this. But they are stuck on 2 lands, which is interesting. So Thought Erasure is definitely going to be their next play. If we take Thought Erasure, they'll definitely play the Wall of Lost Thoughts. I think I'm just going to go ahead and take Narset. It just draws them more, and it hoses us enough that I don't think we can let them have it. And then next turn, I think it's a pretty easy search for Visconta. It's just going to help us dig as much as possible. Obviously, Cry of the Carnarium, prior to what I just said, is not going to be very good in this matchup. They could, yeah, they will take search. Makes the most sense. But they're probably, if they are short on lands, that's great for us. So, okay, we'll just play Overgrown Tomb tapped. No need to leave it up here, but I'd rather go ahead and play it tapped when it's less efficient, and it really doesn't matter that much if it comes into play tapped. They are going to play Davril. Here, I think it's a pretty easy ditching the Cry. We just don't need it. There's no need for it. And we have a Davril of our own. So I'm going to play Woodland Cemetery, and then play our own Davril, and then start discarding their hand. We'll see what they discard here. It could very easily just be the Wall. Not 100% sure. So they're kind of they look like the deck. Okay, so they're discarding a Watery Grave. That's interesting. So they look like a very similar deck that I built with Davril, where it was just hand destruction like crazy. So we'll see how things go here. So we do have to discard a card. It's a pretty easy forest, I think, here. I'd kind of like to keep the cast down just in case, though there's not a huge reason to. But I am going to ditch the forest for now. We kind of have all the mana we need, really. We'll go ahead, ditch a card from them. Now I have, let's see, I don't really have any other plays, so I'm just going to pass, and they're going to start taking 2 damage from Davril. And we'll see what their next play is. Hopefully just a land. That'd be great. We are going to discard a card here. I will discard the cast down. Whoops. No, I'm not trying to resolve that. Okay, there we go. So I'll just go ahead and discard cast down. They did not have a play. And they got rid of their Davril. That's kind of interesting. Let's get a look at their hand. I'm sure we probably won't be able to discard anything in it, but that's fine. That does not matter. Yeah, I think we just pass. We want to leave our Davril up as long as possible, so I'd rather let them, if they want to get rid of their own creature, that's fine. Looks like they don't. And now we have access to Tamiyo. So I'm going to go ahead and Tamiyo. And let's plus... What card are we looking for, though? That's the key. So a non-land card, what are we looking for? Maybe Casualties of War, just for long-term success, but I kind of would rather have Duress here. It's kind of a long shot because we do only have 2, but that's okay. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll pass here, and we will see what they do. Next turn we can Spark Double if we would like, but most likely we're just going to pull something back. Okay, so that's great. We're going to Thought Erasure them very quickly. Take away any chance... Oops, did not mean to do that, but that's fine. Kind of want to leave that on top. Well, no, because we're probably going to be pitching. Yeah. So let's go ahead and pull back Thought Erasure with Tamiyo here. And be able to pull... If we can get it. I guess it's more mana efficient to get to rest, but I'd rather be able to fix the top of my deck. And since we already did discard 1 Thought Erasure, we do not know what's on top. So let's go ahead and do this, and we're going to take the Eldest Reborn. That way we do not have to sack anything. I'm actually going to leave the land on top. I would like to draw that, and we'll go ahead and pass. So they are going to take 2 here. Again, this is all about resource denial, so this is the best chance we've got, I believe, of kind of taking this down. I think what we will do... How many Thought Erasures do we have in here? So we've got 2 in the graveyard. I kind of want a way to finish the game, so I think I'm going to name... let's name Hydroid Krasis here. Oh. And see if we get it. We do not, unfortunately. But that's kind of okay. I'm going to play this tapped. And then I think if I want to just finish the game as quickly as possible, I guess I could. I think I'm going to Spark Double, though, targeting Tamiyo. I'd really like to double up on Tamiyos. They're just super, super powerful. And I think what we'll do... Return target card from the graveyard to your hand. And here we can actually get Hydroid Krasis. I do think that's kind of the best option here. I really want Casualties of War kind of now, just because they've missed so many land drops, that it's going to be a really, really good card to have. If they do get a land here, yeah, they do. That's fine. So again, they can technically... blow up their own creature, I guess. We draw another Hydroid Krasis. That's funny. Okay, so I think what we'll do... Oops. Freezing up a little bit. Sorry, guys. All right, there we go. We're going to do this. We're going to draw... Or we're going to put 3 counters on Hydroid Krasis. We do get that out. Play Woodland Cemetery. And I think what we're going to do is... Do we want to plus for anything? I think we plus for cast down. I know we have one in our graveyard, but I kind of just want to fill the graveyard as much as possible here. I may be playing this wrong. I do apologize if I am, but that's okay. And we'll go ahead and plus here as well for cast down. Get as many cards here as possible. So we'll go ahead and pass. They do have the option of running into the God Eternals, which is fine. That's going to take up their turn, and then we do have a way to kill it right off the bat, so I'm perfectly fine with that. Ooh, that's bad. That's quite bad. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. I should have known. I guess they would have had Ashiok. That's fine. So we will play Woodland Cemetery. We'll go ahead and swing at... I think I have to get rid of Ashiok here. It's just such a powerful card against us. So I will go ahead and do that. And I think what I will do... Do I want them to discard a card here? Yeah, I think so. If all they have is the God Eternals, like as far as next turn plays, then I think we can deal with that, but I do not want them to have anything else. So we'll see what they discard. So they discard Liliana. That's great. So here we just run this out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, just 5. So we gain a little bit of life back, draw a couple cards, and now we've got 2 threats. So again, they can enter the God Eternals, destroy one of the Krasis, but we do still have the flying threat here. And now we have a Casualties of War, so I feel pretty good. Do I want to plus this up? I do. No, I don't think so, only because we are running into a small... I should have probably pulled back Davril. That was a mistake. That was definitely a misplay. But that's okay. Yep. And then they're going to exile Graveyard, I assume. So here I get to Casualties of War, which is going to be nice, but I do really need to close out this game pretty quickly now. So we'll play land, play Casualties of War, and then what we'll do, we'll destroy target creature and target land. Done. So we'll take out this zombie token. We'll also take out one of these dual lands. And then here, what we'll do is we'll be able to pull back Casualties of War, which gives us a follow-up play. If they do have any kind of follow-up, we should be able to handle it now. And then be able to hopefully close out this game in just a couple turns. We do have another way to bring it back also next turn, which is really nice. So we've kind of... I don't want to say we've locked the game out by any means, but depending on what they can do, ideally we should be able to win this pretty quickly. Okay. Top 2 cards. That's definitely a hit. We've only got 4 cards left, unfortunately. And we do draw another Casualties of War. So here we're going to be able to blow up creature, land, and planeswalker. Blow up the wall, blow up the land, and blow up Jace. And I think here we actually need to pull back Davril, because we really need to just be able to keep them off of anything. We really can't play Hydroid Krasis. We will just straight up lose, so we can't do that. Unfortunately, we can't make him discard this turn, but we do get in with a 5-swing attack. 3 cards left in the deck. This is going to be a close one. We'll see what we can do. We can, I guess, play the Krasis for 1. It rounds down, so I guess we wouldn't take damage that way, but we do have another Casualties, so that's good. As long as they can't mill us, I think we're fine. I say I think we're fine, but this is definitely close. I assume they take Casualties here, or Davril, because that can kill them next turn. We shall see. Interesting. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do this. Make them discard and then swing in, and that should be game. Next turn, they'll take 2 at the start of their turn, and then we pretty much locked it up. That was a bit close. You can see kind of the pitfall of this deck is that it does mill itself pretty quickly, which is not ideal. But we do get access to just everything. So I really, really like this deck. Casualties of War being featured there pretty heavily as a really, really good way to just take them off of resources, no matter what the resource is. So if it's on board, we can blow it up. Absolutely love that. So we will go ahead and jump into a game 3 and see how the deck fares there. Alright guys, here we are for our final game with this BUG Midrange deck. We lost game 1, won game 2, and so hopefully we'll be able to go with a second win here. Actually, this hand has no hand destruction really at all, but we have a pretty strong opener against a lot of creature decks, so I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this. We can turn 1 Overgrown Tomb most likely. Because we'll need that double black for the Cry of the Carnarium if we end up playing it. And then maybe turn 2 Drowned Catacomb just to leave up Cast Down. They are playing blue, which makes me think they might not be a very big creature deck unless it's mono blue aggro, but it doesn't look like it. But they are playing Timble Garden. That's pretty interesting. So we'll play Drowned Catacomb, leave up Cast Down. Hopefully they do play a creature here. We can just cast down it, and then we're kind of good to go. Cry of the Carnarium we might end up playing. I don't know. Looks like they are not going to play anything here. So I'm going to put out a Breeding Pool. We're going to play that tapped, since this is probably going to be the best turn to do that. And then we'll see what they've got. Hopefully something that we can cast down. Next turn, we do have Tamiyo if we want to run that out there. That's an interesting card. Yeah, you get to scry one. I don't know that I really care to cast down that, to be honest. I'd rather cast down something a little more formidable. This just doesn't do anything against us, so I don't really care that much. So I think I'm just going to pass. Okay, Divest is kind of interesting. They've not done anything, which is a little weird, but I think I'd rather take this time to go ahead and play Tamiyo. Maybe we can pull out another kind of threat here. I think I'd really like Davril as a way to just start destroying their hand as much as possible here. Let's see. Yep, we'll go ahead and get that. Hopefully, nope. Okay, that's fine. We do now have a few cards in the graveyard that we can bring back, so that's great. Obviously short on lands. We do not have a next land drop, but that's okay. So that's a bit annoying, but kind of not. Do I care about that? Yes, I guess. We'll play the Hinterland Harbor really quick. How do we want to deal with this? Do we have a good way to deal with this is a better question. So I think we'll plus looking for Casualties of War. That'll give us the out against this long term. We do have it, so that's great. So now what I would like to do... I've got a couple options here. I think I'd like to play out the Underground Lich, or Underrealm Lich, excuse me. Again, we are under a little... I mean, it's still early in the game, really, so we're not under a ton of pressure, and I'd really like to be able to control my draws for the next couple turns. It'd be great to be able to just tear apart their hand right now, and I do have Divest, which can start that process. But they're going to be playing High Alert. That's kind of perfect. I'm actually super okay with that, because that just means that's a target for Casualties of War, which is great. That's not great, but obviously we can just block with Underrealm Lich if we want to, so that's fine. So kind of hoping we draw land here, and obviously we get to, thanks to Underrealm Lich. I love that card. Just This is one of my favorite cards from the from guilds, I believe. It was just such a fun card. Okay, so here, definitely playing Casualties of War. There's absolutely no reason not to. So destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, and that is it. Again, this is just such a huge swing in our favor. It's going to blow up 3 things on their field, take them down to only 3 lands, take away their biggest threat, and the card that kind of seems to be the backbone of their deck, which just is huge. So I'm not going to swing in on the off chance they have another high alert. I don't want them to be able to just swing in with this Wall of Runes. So I'm going to go ahead and pass, and they give up. Okay, that was pretty quick. So again, highlighting the power of Casualties of War. It's a really, really strong card. Just being able to swing things in your favor is great, and it does well with like kind of janky decks like that, obviously, because a lot of them run off of enchantments and artifacts and things like that. So absolutely love this deck. I would highly suggest building this yourself. Obviously, we've had BUG Midrange in Standard for quite a while, thanks to Hydroid Crisis. But this one's a little bit different. It's a little more focused on that hand destruction and recursion versus just playing really valuable stuff like the Hydroid Crisis. Obviously, excuse me, Casualties of War being the highlight card, just taking them off of resources that they've already played and then teaming that up with that hand destruction just means they really kind of get locked out of the game pretty quickly. So with that, I'm going to get out of here, guys. If you enjoyed this episode of the Magic Arena gameplay stuff, whatever you want to call it, please make sure to leave a like or a comment down below. And as always, please make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of our awesome content. But with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next Magic Arena video.